Okay, we're recording.
We need to get you an actual Hollywood clicker.
We have one.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Should grab that thing. Are you recording right now?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I always love it. You never really know when he's got the button pressed. So,
Love it.
well, Beth, thanks for coming in. I know you had to brave some excavators and some Intel site building and a wildfire smoke. And
It's crazy.
You had to wear your gas mask to get here today. So
Just glad to be here. Thank you.
yeah. Thanks for coming in. This will be a cool conversation. So, as you guys have seen probably in the intro, we were speaking with Beth Johnson from Honor Flight Columbus, a part of the National Honor Flight program. We called it a hub, if you will. If you can, we're going to dive into that for sure. But let's go ahead and get into your background and kind of how you got started with Honor Flight.
Wonderful. Well, I chaperoned my 8th grade middle son, went on his 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Happened upon the Washington, we were in Washington, happened to come across the World War II Memorial and just saw a bunch of older men in wheelchairs and like, what in the world's going on? Went over, found out about Honor Flight. That was the first time I had ever heard of Honor Flight, and went home, Googled it, found Honor Flight Columbus, Ohio had a hub, just kind of volunteered. That was about 2015, started as a volunteer. 2016, thought, need to figure out what this guardianship is all about. Went on my first flight April of 2016, and then got hooked and had one more flight in 2016 at the fall. And then I was approached by the office. I was an office manager at a church before I came to Honor Flight, and they caught wind that I had office experience and then worked in the office, and then just kind of gradually moved into a volunteer position. And then I came on staff in August of 2019, and then just became executive director
congratulations.
May of 2023. So thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what a humble beginning for sure.
Yes.
I mean, that's like textbook American story right there.
Moving my way up. I love, absolutely the best job I've ever had is working for Honor Flight Columbus.
That's fantastic. I, unfortunately, and I don't know if you were in the same boat too, but when I was in 7th and 8th grade, 9/11 had just happened, or I think it was maybe the following year, the following spring, we were going to do our trip to Washington, D.C., as most middle school students do, and it got canceled. But
yeah, we didn't get to go either.
Yeah, so we should talk about the chaperone. With young kids, it makes it hard to go, but it's definitely been on my bucket list of things to do for the chaperone side or guardian. The
Guardians.
Yep, guardian.
Yep. Once you go one time, you're
hooked.
You're officially hooked.
Yeah,
it is pretty amazing.
Yeah, my grandpa was he was in Korea. Unfortunately, he's passed away several years ago, but he was in Korea. So it was like an extra touch. I know there's definitely we'll get into it some more, but obviously the World War II veterans, the Korean War veterans, as well as the Vietnam veterans, are who we're talking about serving here. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into Honor Flight, maybe like on the national scale, and then we can kind of dwindle it down to just our region here, because I know there are several, especially down in like Lebanon, we help the Tri-State hub. So let's get into Honor Flight as a national organization, and then we'll kind of get into more of a local tie here.
Sure. In 2005, Earl Morris was a physician assistant in Springfield, Ohio. The World War II Memorial had just opened up in 2004, and he was talking with his World War II patients about, hey, are you going to be able to get to see your memorial? A lot of them were like, no, there's no way I can physically get there, financially get there. So he is a retired Air Force captain. So he has his pilot license. So he started flying World War II veterans in his little Cessna plane, one at a time. And then he got his Aero Club involved too. So for 2005, he was flying just one or two vets at a time over.
Wow.
And then Jeff Miller, who is a president of a dry cleaning company in Hendersonville, North Carolina, caught wind of Earl's thing and said, okay, I'm going to one-up it, so to speak. And so he started chartering jet services. And so then they started doing that. Well, Earl Morris did Honor Flight. Jeff Miller did Honor Air. And so in 2006, they came together and merged those two to make Honor Flight Network.
Okay.
And then currently there is 129 hubs in 43 states. Honor Flight Columbus was actually the first hub in the network.
Okay.
We started in 2007.
Yeah.
Bill and Bobby Richards were our directors at the time.
Yep.
They literally built this organization to where it is now. So we've had directors in the past. So the Richards, Bill and Bobby Richards, and Jim and Kay Downing were our the core group that really got this moving and shaking. But we've had board members from the very beginning all the way to now that are huge proponents volunteers and all that, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of a snapshot of how we began.
You got big shoes to fill, you think, huh?
They have laid out the best path forward, and I'm just riding on their coattails. So it's pretty awesome.
It makes it easy. Awesome. It makes it easy.
Exactly.
Go back. You said a stat. I didn't quite catch how many, but there was 43 states. And how many? I had a question here. How many hubs do we have across the country?
About 129 hubs. 130. Yeah. Ohio has 5. Okay. So we have Columbus and Honor Flight Cleveland, Honor Flight Dayton, Tri-State and Cincinnati, and then Flag City, which is based out of Findlay, but they fly out of Toledo.
Okay.
So we have 5 across the country, or across the state.
Do you guys work together a lot in terms of inner hub?
We don't really, but all of us have the same mission of flying our senior veterans. We're all independent of each other, so we may do things a little different.
Sure.
But we all have the same mission of flying our senior vets.
That's nice for us too, because obviously we have the Lebanon area and Cincinnati too. And so I know a lot of which we'll get into, like our car show here at OBETS, a lot of those proceeds are going towards Honor Flight and helping fill the plane. But then also in the same breath, we can help another hub with the Lebanon area and kind of drum up some business, drum up some resources for them to kind of help their mission as well.
Exactly.
So kind of leading into this, I had a note. I read on the website, this is numbers as of 2022. So these are probably numbers from at the end of last season, but there have been 119 flights, and that's
at the end of 22. So the beginning,
just Columbus.
So that's just Columbus. Okay. So yes. So at the end, our last flight of the spring season was June 15th. As of June 15th, we've flown 123 missions.
That's awesome.
And have flown 8,936 veterans. So
say that for them one more time.
8,936.
How awesome is that, man?
So we will fly the exciting news is we will fly our 9,000th veteran on the Vance Outdoors flights in September.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. That's so impressive. I mean, to think that you're going to affect 9,000 servicemen and women, that's so awesome. Yeah. That's so awesome. Do you see, obviously, as they get up there in age, you see more of them probably being more Vietnam veterans, or have they been?
The large majority of our vets that we are serving right now are Vietnam. We did recently, as of the first of the year, change our eligibility for a veteran. Okay. It used to be you had to serve at least 1 day active duty up through May 7 of 75, which was the end of the Vietnam War. Yes. Now it's any active duty age 65 and up. Okay. So now we are getting into the post-Vietnam, the global war on terror. Yes. So as soon as you turn 65, you can submit an application to go.
That was I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the next question, or not next question I had, but it was a question I did have, because you would almost kind of put yourself in a hole if you just kept it with where, because eventually we're not going to have any more Vietnam or veterans. And I'm sure you guys can kind of see the writing on the wall there a little bit about that. So that was a question that I had. I'm glad you answered, because at any veteran 65 and older, whether it's the global war on terror or you're a Gulf War, Gulf War veteran, you can participate.
Yep, exactly.
And you don't necessarily have to serve in a campaign or an operation. You can be any
so it is 65 and over, at least 1 day active duty, which is outside of any basic training active duty, or 20 years in the Guard or Reserve will get you the eligibility to go.
That was awesome. See, she already knows. She comes prepared. She knew that was going to be my question. Let's get into. We'll dive into this some more. So, we had talked earlier. Let's get into the current requirements, if you will. So, I had a note here. how they participate, like how they get involved. Is there any specific eligibility criteria, which is what you just mentioned, the 65 and older? But one thing I do want to let people know currently, you guys are prioritizing the older folks.
Correct.
So the World War II, the Korean War, anyone who's terminally ill, I believe, as well, like maybe cancer or something like that.
Correct. Yeah.
You guys are prioritizing that.
So any service member who served prior to 1961 will have first availability. So that is World War II, Korea, the Cold Wars.
Yes.
So anybody serving prior to 61 will have first dibs on the flight. And any qualified veteran that is terminally ill. So 65 and over terminally ill will move you straight up too.
Yeah, so just give those guys the opportunity while they
Correct.
can. I mean, you got to prioritize that for sure. And I'm sure there's no qualms with the other guys about letting them do that.
We get a lot of times veterans that are like, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to take a seat from somebody who's older than me or more qualified for me, which the more qualified kind of you signed the dotted line, you served. It's your time to be honored. So, and I always say, no, you're not taking a seat away from an older veteran because they come before you anyways. So, but what we do is we encourage the veterans to get their applications in as soon as they hit 65 to get on our wait list. Right now, we just have a very small wait list. We have about, as of this week, we have like 520 apps on file, and we will fly those in the fall. So
that's awesome.
we've done a really great job of catching up on our wait list. Before COVID, we had almost a 2-year wait list. We lost a whole flight season and a half due to COVID. So when we got the okay to fly again, we flew tons. We were actually doing double flights. So we would fly 2 planes every 2 weeks. That's awesome, so we flew, in 11 weeks, we flew 1,197 veterans. Wow. So right now, our wait list is just a season. So you apply in the spring, you'll fly in the fall. You apply in the fall, you'll fly in the spring. Which is awesome.
Yeah, because then I was going to say, if they had a wait list, they're not going to have. They can just submit one time.
Correct.
Chances are they're probably going to get selected that following season.
Correct.
But if they didn't, it's not like something that they always have to continuing to apply for.
No, you apply once, you get into our system, and then our director of veteran operations, her name is Megan. Megan Jacob will enter that application in and get you in the system. You'll get a postcard in the mail that says, we've received your application, and you'll just kind of in a holding pattern until we call. We have an awesome veteran call team that comes in. Typically, it's the first couple of weeks of January and the first couple of weeks of July to call for the seasons. So they come in and they book the veterans. We have about 8 to 10 veteran call team members who are, making those first contacts to our vets, getting them all excited for their trips. And so they're all volunteers, and they are just like all of our volunteers. They're just the lifeline of the organization.
I bet, yeah, especially. How was I going to get with that? So how many out of the applicants that you receive, I'm sure there's probably a ton that are submitted on behalf of. Do you get a lot of that, like a spouse or a son or daughter that's...
We actually, we do. We get the occasional phone call of, hey, I want to surprise my grandpa, or I want to surprise my dad. We don't actually, the veteran has to sign the application. They have to know that they're being nominated. And we have to, so the application has to be filled out and signed, and then we have to have a copy of their DD-214, which is their release information, the service release. Because sometimes if you surprise them, they're, and then our veteran call team calls them like, I didn't sign up for this, or, it's
spam.
And so we just need to make sure that the veteran knows. So when we get those calls of, hey, I want to surprise my dad, well, you can surprise them by filling out the application and saying, hey, I've done all the legwork for you, but you have to sign this. So they know when the application comes in that they're being, put on the wait list to be honored.
That's awesome. Getting into just the trips themselves, I'm sure there's a ton of logistics that go through that. I'm sure you have a really good relationship. So is there a particular airline or anything?
Correct. Yeah. So we charter our airplanes. We're through Southwest Airlines or American Airlines. This season we're doing Southwest. It's a 143 seat plane. Everybody on the plane is Honor Flight Columbus, either a veteran, guardian, support staff, and sponsors. And our media.
Sure.
So anybody that's on the plane. So there's 86 veterans, and then the rest are guardians and support staff. That's awesome. And then we do DC Trails is our bus charter.
Yeah.
So we have 3 charter buses waiting on us when we get to Reagan National. Yep. And then we have food vendors that we are constantly working with, and just a well-oiled machine.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say at this point, after since 2007, it's
123 missions. Yep. I mean, each mission is, we're learning new stuff every time. So this past mission, we had to find a new lunch location because our location before we couldn't use anymore. So, it's always something, which...
Well, it helps too. Yeah. If I recall, so my brother just moved to DC a couple of years ago. Reagan is actually closer towards those monuments, if I'm not mistaken, too, right? And so that helps probably logistically. You don't have to fight so much of that downtown DC.
Exactly.
It's across the river. Or
it is. And then we fly on Thursdays. We used to fly on Saturdays, but it got super crazy.
Yeah.
With a super Saturday is what Network calls it, is when there's 8 or more hubs in the city at one time. Our last time we flew on a Saturday, there were 11 hubs in the city. And then you got to look at, each hub has at least 2 to 3 buses, sometimes 4 buses. So it can get a little hectic.
Yeah.
So we chose, after we came back from COVID, to do Thursdays. Okay. And we're almost always the only hub in the city, and it just makes it nice to be at the memorials not so crazy.
And you guys are flying out of John Glenn International, correct?
John Glenn International. Yep. And we always preface that when we call the vets is John Glenn International, not Rickenbacker, because sometimes people think we're military. So therefore we're flying out of Rickenbacker. But no, it is Southwest Airlines at John Glenn.
That's awesome. So we mentioned the Guardians, and I know this is something that you had signed up for and weren't able to plan.
It was more or less a media spot.
Yeah,
we were going to film
to kind of help film and to kind of be there to participate. And I remember Kevin went to the most recent one. I think Angie's been on some of them as well.
Ryan went.
Yeah, Ryan went. So the guardianship or the guardians of on these flights, like what's kind of expected of them? How do they help? Obviously a lot of these individuals have a variety of different needs. We had spoke earlier, some of them are in wheelchairs, some of them have different disabilities or are perfectly fine. Is it a very tailored approach to each individual, or kind of how is that?
So when our veteran call team calls the veteran, they kind of get a snapshot of their medical history for our medical team. Then we have volunteers on our medical team that take an eyeball look of all of that and compile a list. And then we get that list when we start pairing the guardians to the veterans. Okay. So if a veteran has more of, is more medically fragile, we'll give that him or her a medical guardian. Okay. And so we really try and tailor their needs to what we what we can. I mean, we have doctors, nurses, physician assistants, dentists, eye doctors. I mean, our medical team is really, really great. We do take 1 lead physician each trip and then 3 EMTs each trip. Okay. And those 4 don't have veterans assigned to them. Each EMT, each bus has its own EMT. So any incidences that happen on the bus, that EMT is there, and then they kind of spread out at each stop. So any kind of fall or somebody's short of breath, and we can access it right there. Anything major, we're calling 911. Yeah, sure. And then our EMTs will be able to, and our lead physician will be able to help.
Yeah, I'll say that, but that gives them a little bit of extra reassurance, especially if you're that family member or that spouse that's sending your could be 80-plus-year-old grandfather or dad on this trip by himself. Yeah, he gives them that reassurance that he's well taken care of, and it's really neat to see that you split those up, and then they can kind of intermix with the group as you're doing? Because
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a ton of walking and things like that.
There is.
Yeah.
When we call the vets, and our veteran call team will say, the first question is, can you easily walk a half a mile unassisted?
Yeah.
Some will be like, I walk 3 miles a day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, no problem. Some will be like, ooh, I can't walk from my bedroom to the front room without getting winded. That's our first experience of trying to catch, will they need a wheelchair?
Yes.
I always say to veterans who are really apprehensive of doing wheelchairs, we take 50 wheelchairs a trip. We can take up to 50. You're not the only one that's going to use one. And that wheelchair is yours for the day. You choose to use it however much or however little you need. But for us to have that wheelchair, we need to have it in the count to get it on the plane.
Sure.
So, but a lot of our vets do use the wheelchair. Our guardians are fantastic. One of the requirements of a guardian is that you can push a heavily weighted wheelchair around through all terrains,
Sure.
up the hill, downhill, and all kind of weather. So guardians do have requirements. So you just, the one big requirement is age related. We don't have an age limit. We just have it to where you cannot be older than the veteran that you're serving.
Okay.
So now that we're serving 65 and over,
Sure.
it just all depends on the demographic of each flight. Each flight is different with their medical concerns. There are, the ages. So yeah, and all of our requirements to be a guardian is on our website. So if anybody has any questions, it's honorflightcolumbus.org and go to get involved. And then there's tabs you hit and it's guardian.
Do you see like family members wanting to volunteer for that, like grandkids?
Yes. And we actually, Honor Flight Columbus is one of, we had mentioned before, one of the hubs in the network.
Yeah.
Each hub is different. Honor Flight Columbus, we actually don't allow family members to go unless it's a special circumstance. Just because our mission is honor, share, and celebrate.
Yep.
We honor, share, and celebrate every veteran we take. The share component is based on the veteran. And the veteran is probably not going to be sharing his story of his service if he's with a family member.
Sure.
A lot of times we get families that contact us after the trip and like, oh my gosh, my dad will not stop talking about his war service.
Yeah.
It's amazing. He's never talked about it before. And for him to share his story with other guardians, other veterans, people around him, general public, they're not going to do that if a family member is with them. Plus we have a 2-to-1 ratio. So each guardian has 2 vets.
Okay.
And so if you take your dad, you're probably not going to spend as much
time with the other family member. Yeah.
So, special circumstances will allow a family member to go, but typically it's, it is pretty cool. It is pretty cool to see the guardian-veteran relationship expand past the flight, too.
Yes.
I have, since I've been doing this since 2016, I have about 40-some-odd vets that I've been with and have a relationship with the majority of them.
Awesome.
There's some veterans that will, the first time and the last time you'll see them is on flight day.
Yeah.
But, a lot of times you become a family member. It is pretty cool. You spend 16, 17, 18 hours with a person and then you've really bonded with them, and it's pretty fantastic.
And I want to get into one more thing, and then we'll get into the emotional side of it too.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to know this is a single day trip.
Correct.
And so we leave in the morning. What time are we headed?
Veterans arrive between 6 and 6:30.
6 and 6:30.
And then we, on a perfect non-stressed morning, we are loaded by 7:30, 7:45. We need to be in the air by 8 o'clock to keep on schedule. Then it's a 55-minute flight to Washington. Land, load our 3 buses, and our first stop is always the Iwo Jima Memorial.
Okay.
And then we do Arlington for the changing of the guard. We do our lunch stop, and then Navy, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. Then they'll have time to do the Lincoln Memorial, and then we head back into Arlington for dinner at the Women's Military Memorial. Okay. And then we head back to the airport, and we should be flying out by 8 to land around 9 for the welcome home.
Yep. I was going to say, then you have the welcome home, which is a huge celebration that a lot of these servicemen never got.
Yep.
And so I think that's extra special as well.
Yeah.
Because the way they really put it on, I mean,
Oh my gosh.
whistles and bells and balloons and the whole thing for
It
them.
is. We can have anywhere up to 1,500 to 2,000 people at Port Columbus to welcome them home, and it's truly amazing. It is.
I love it. That's
is.
so cool. So I kind of knew that's the direction that you were going to go with that. So then now going back to the emotional side,
Yeah.
you get to visit all these memorials. Just how awesome is it? I'm sure there's been lots of tears shed.
Oh.
Lots of stories
is.
shared. How's that brotherhood, if you will, of these gentlemen that are and women that are going and seeing these monuments?
Each memorial is powerful, but I would say, on a personal note, I get so moved and emotional at the Vietnam Wall. We all know the craziness that our Vietnam veterans received coming home. A lot of them have never heard "thank you for your service" or "welcome home." 55 plus years ago, they never got that. So a lot are apprehensive of going, just, don't want to relive what they went through. But everybody that has gone veteran-wise on this trip will tell another veteran, you have to go.
Yeah.
The walking through the city and seeing school groups, 8th grade trips, the amount of kids that just want to see our vets and shake their hand and say thank you for their service is
awesome.
It's goosebumps. It's truly amazing. But when we have a Vietnam veteran that is approaching the wall very apprehensive because he or she has somebody on the wall that they know, and then we find them and they're able to touch the name on the wall, that's when the emotions come out. And I always say, if you don't cry or at least tear up on an honor flight trip, something's wrong.
You need to check your pulse.
I know, something's wrong. But a lot of the time, it's just years and years and years of emotion, every emotion, anger, frustration, guilt, the survivorship guilt of seeing somebody on the wall and to say, why him and not me? But leaving the wall is, just layers of emotion has peeled off, and we have seen veterans change from the time we see them in the morning till the time we get them home. It's unless you've experienced it, it's really truly hard to put in words, but
just a burden probably lifted.
Yeah. Because like I said, we all have heard the horror stories of the way they were treated. And it's our way. Honor Flight is here to right the wrongs of many, many years ago. And we, not to toot the horn, but I think we do an awesome job of being able to right those wrongs.
We do too. That's why we have you
Love
here.
it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why we have you here. Yeah, that's you can see I know a lot of people are if you're not watching YouTube, go watch YouTube, because you can tell that was a very touching moment for you, for sure. And so I could only imagine. I mean, just hearing you talk about the stories and knowing that my family members have been in the military, it's just, that'd be pretty touching for sure to see them just kind of, the changing the guard, visiting the wall. It's, I remember trying to get it a little bit lighter. I think you recently on the last trip, there was like a news. Did I see the local media?
Stacia from ABC6.
Yeah, ABC6. Yeah.
And that's actually going to be shown over the July 4th holiday.
Okay.
They put together like a big.
We'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. It is pretty cool. We'll once I get the links from ABC6 from Stacia, it'll be on our Facebook page and our social media, and to be able to get some coverage on that. So
well, and that kind of leads me, so community awareness, obviously we're doing our part from what we can do, which we'll get into some of the things that we have to raise awareness, but what else outside of these sponsorships are you doing to kind of raise awareness for the organization?
We actually are we did a little study as to where our veterans are coming from countywide.
Okay.
And what I have done is put together a study to try and figure out, okay, where are we underserving our vets? So like pick a county. So I'll pick Muskingum County.
Yeah.
I think I just actually did this the other day, pulled the report. We've only served about 200 veterans in Muskingum County. So I'm going to work with the Veteran Service Commission offices to try and figure out, okay, where could we go in your county Is there a VFW? Is there American Legion? Is there a church group that we can get in to get more veterans?
Sure.
For us to continue to do what we do, we have funding, we have guardians and volunteers. We need the veterans.
Yeah.
If we don't have the veterans to fly, then we can't fly them.
Exactly.
So right now, I mean, we're good. We're not like, oh, we can't fly anymore because we don't have vets. But as soon as we fly 86, we need to replenish it. So it's a continual cycle. So right now for community-wide is, if you have an organization or a event, we have events all the time. We go to festivals and fairs and church groups. And I know one that we just signed up for this week is the Pickle Fest in Zanesville.
Yeah.
The first annual Pickle Fest. I've never heard of a Pickle Fest.
I live like 20 minutes from Zanesville. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's the first annual.
Oh, it's the first annual.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I've never heard of the Pickle Fest.
Pickle Fest. So
sounds like something I'm going to, I wonder if they have, I'm down for fried pickles.
Oh my gosh. So I reached out to them and said, hey, I saw you on Facebook. Can we have a table? Absolutely. So any, if you know of an event an obscure event like the Pickle Fest that I've never heard of before, call our office and say, hey, you might want to check out this or that. Yeah. Columbus is, the greater Columbus area is where always seems to be out and about in there, but I'm looking for like the rural areas of Ross County, of Pike County, of because we service 33 of the 88 counties are our territory.
In Columbus hub.
Yeah. So you take Columbus and you go up, I think, to Bucyrus and down to the river and then all the way up and over back. So that whole kind of
towards
central,
like Tuscarawas.
Yes.
Coshocton.
Yeah. Over that way to the river
Southeast
and then down.
Ohio.
Yep.
Yeah,
so,
and I would imagine that area has a good bit of veterans, but like most things, I think that area it's probably the most rural area of the state.
Yep.
And most poverty-stricken area of the state as well. Yeah. And so I think that getting in those homes in like Athens and Cambridge, Zanesville.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure Perry County, southern Perry County, like I can continue to see it. And that's where Ben and I are from. And I could see there being a lot of people there that just probably don't know.
Yeah. We are finding a lot of people don't know about us, or they've heard about us and just really don't know, what we're all about. The veteran is absolutely 100% free. Yeah. They do not pay a cent to Honor Flight Columbus. The only thing that we allow them to pay for and that they pay for is to get to John Glenn International, either by car to park, or if they spend the night at the hotel the night before. We do have really special rates with the Fairfield Inn right there at the airport. Yep. That's all on the vet. But once they get to the airport till the time they come home, their plane, their bus, their meals, their shirts, their, the stuff that we give them on the flight, everything. It's about $1,000 a vet is how much it costs.
That's cool.
So they are completely free. So to get that information out, because some vets may know about us, they're like, oh, I can't afford to go.
Yeah, sure.
No, free. Just get yourself to the airport.
That's So
yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of family members will be eager to let them go.
Yes.
From that perspective. I used to, when I was at the financial bank, the bank that I was at prior to coming here, we used to have like a Freedom Years program for older people. And I know a lot of times we had volunteers to get them to the airport. I've picked on several occasions, have taken people to the airport, as they're getting ready to head out to a vacation trip or something like that. So it's not like you're really helping them. They're going on a vacation trip, but at the same time, like it was a service that they provided. So it might eventually, maybe down the road, if funds allow, that's something that you can help do as well.
That's true. And we do have some good regional volunteers that will be like, hey, if you hear of somebody in Zanesville that needs a ride, let me know. Yeah. Or, Chillicothe, let me know. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
Once a vet goes on the trip and comes back, are there any additional opportunities? Do you guys connect them with other organizations to kind of help continue the mental health area?
Not really. We do encourage, them to get involved, in their, VAs and so forth. But no, we really don't have after the trip program. We do offer a regional it's veteran ambassador program. We just started a couple months ago to, hey, any veteran that's flown before, from time to time, Honor Flight gets asked to have a veteran come speak to a group on their experience. So we kind of, have opportunities for that. And then we have Honor Flight Columbus Days at the Mott's Military Museum. It's the fourth Saturday of every month, to where the vets can come back and just kind of, if you haven't gone to Mott's Military Museum, it's pretty awesome.
I need to get there. He has some stuff at the car show.
He comes to the car show every
year.
year.
He does, yeah. And then we're going to do a Honor Flight Columbus Day at the National Veterans Museum to kind of just get our veterans back and just kind of keep that relationship going. But
you did share some stories. I'm interested to see what's been one of the most. I mean, you've been doing it, like I said, for quite a while. How many? You said 40 that you had
that I've done.
Personally?
Actually, 40 vets. I've lost count of how many.
Yeah,
I think I've done 45
since
flights.
2016.
Yeah.
What's been one of the most memorable, if you will, moments that you've encountered?
Have several that come to mind. One, I did take the first father-son duo of sorts. Joe Sr. and Joe Jr. Joe Sr. was World War II, was on the USS Thompson on D-Day.
Yeah.
And so and then his son, Joe Jr., was Vietnam.
Okay.
So the first kind of father-son pairing. To hear his recount of his days, on the ship. And then another really powerful one, April of 2018, I had a veteran who on Easter Sunday, 1969, lost 11 of the 14 platoon mates. And we were able to go to the wall and see all 11 clustered together, because the wall, if you didn't know, is not alphabetized.
Okay.
It is by date of casualty.
Okay, so the KIA
yes.
date.
So if you have, like Jim, my veteran Jim, if you had your platoon mates that perished, you can go and find them clustered together. And so that was amazingly, I mean, it was healing for him. It was healing for a lot of people around him, but for him to be able to share his story with other vets that were around him was just very, very powerful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let that sit for a second.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It is very powerful.
So I want to give you some time to kind of talk about why we have you here and why we're involved. So we got the website pulled up here. A lot of customers that probably have seen this at this point, but as you walk into just about any of our locations, I want to say we have the Fill the Plane campaign, which has the little campaign that we do just about every year. Mm-hmm. I've been with the company for 2 years now, so I mean it's been a thing since I've started. But if you go to our website and click on the main banner for our gun raffle, a lot of people like to see the gun raffle because that's their interest. But all the proceeds from the gun raffle are able to go to Honor Flight, and so far we raised just under $64,000 so far. So I think our total is to try to get over 100, which we still have a little bit of time before that August car show. So I do expect us to get pretty close to that for sure. But kind of just talk about the support that we've seen, and then the Vance trip and just kind of how we've worked together.
So every flight cost is $100,000.
Okay.
So we are fortunate that we have sponsors that do full sponsorships, which is $100,000. We do have some partial sponsorships of $50,000. So that's foundations, corporations. We are very, very blessed with the sponsorships. And Vance sponsorship is this is the 8th annual car show that raises money to fill planes. And you guys your customers are so loyal. And we also have, folks like Auto Smarts Radio, who is a huge proponent along with Vance. And Columbus Pest Control and Westerville Automotive. Those are like the ones that come to mind that are, partnering with Vance to be able to put on the sponsorship. So $100,000 is a lot of money when you look at it as a campaign where, we've got some companies and corporations which are fantastic too that just write the check.
Yep.
Which we can't do without them. But
for sure.
To see the sweat and the equity of $64,000 right now is amazing. And so I know your goal is, I think I heard Ray Joseph say it's 110,000 is what he would like to see it. Which would benefit both Honor Flight Columbus and Honor Flight Tri-State.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great cause to get behind, and it's pretty. There's always with the raffle, it makes it easy for our customers to want to do it too. I think it's $20. I'm going off memory. I guess I can pull up the website. I think it's $20 a ticket, and then I think you can get like 7 tickets for like $100 or something like that. And we have some really great vendors that give us a lot of great firearms, a lot of great bows and hunting packages and all sorts of things. I mean, pistols, the whole thing. And so people, it's nice to be able to pair like someone. You would like people to do it just because of the goodness, right? But it's nice to pair like a nice prize with it. You feel like you can get something out of it a little bit for yourself too. And so it's a lot of work that goes into creating all those prize items and collecting them throughout the year. I know Andrew's got a huge part in doing that every year. And so, and then organizing the car show, I've been, that's just coming up, and this podcast will probably release, I want to say maybe a couple of weeks out from the car show. Yep. So, that's something that you and I have both been to, and we've seen the good that's come from that. We've had some great weather at some of those, some hot weather sometimes.
That last year's one was, woo.
Yeah.
It was toasty.
I went the first year.
Yeah,
and I remember
it was like heat stroke almost.
Yeah. I remember hiding in the shade of the building. But we've got food trucks that show up. We've had obviously Boots from Auto Smarts doing some live radio stuff there, as well as some great music and a lot of great cars. And that's always at our Obetz location. I want to pull up the date for people. I know he had mentioned that. So it is our 8th annual. This will be 9 to 3 there at Obetz. Which I can't think it's Alm Creek Drive. It's at 1250.
4250.
4250. I knew it was something. Yeah. See.
I know my sponsors.
So 4250 Alm Creek Drive, right in Obetz. It's super simple to get to, right off of I-270. So definitely swing out and check that out. Like I said, we usually have some great food truck vendors there as well, and with the radio and the great cars and stuff, it's a fun thing. Plus, if it's hot, you can always come inside and shop. We're totally fine with that. A lot of people usually do. So, it's exciting. I look forward to it just about every year. Cars have always been my thing too, so it makes it easy when I can do it for work, right? So
True.
Well, awesome. So with all this said, if someone wants to donate or to volunteer or to sign up, you mentioned it earlier, but I want to give you the opportunity to kind of hit all those channels on the website and the social side, any way that they can connect.
So our website is honorflightcolumbus.org. Our office number is 614-284-4987. We're on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook, just at Honor Flight CMH.
Yes.
So any of those, you can get some information and follow us along. We get such large traffic on social media during flight day. So, I encourage you on flight day to check us out.
Sure.
If you have a parent or a husband or an uncle that is really apprehensive about not sure what's going on, follow us on a flight day, and you'll see exactly what we all are about. And then, like you said before too, our YouTube channel has all of our missions. Have a flight video. So all of our guardians and support staff and some of the veterans submit pictures to our media team, and they just put like a big slideshow together that recaps the whole day. And then they film our welcome home. So Boots from Auto Smarts Radio is our MC. And he announces every single name that comes through, and our media team is filming that. So each veteran gets their own thank you for your service, welcome home. And so that's at the end of the on all of our YouTube videos for our trip. So YouTube videos, if you have an apprehensive veteran in your life that's just not sure what we're all about, check those out.
Yeah, check those out. Yeah, especially in today's world of a lot of spam calls or misleading calls, it'd be nice to really put that piece together and really let them know that this is a great cause and a great thing to get behind. And maybe if you're someone out there that wants to like volunteer, maybe show up to one of those welcome home events and just kind of see for yourself the impact that day has had on those individuals.
Yep. Our flight schedule is on our website on the homepage. Yep. Our first one back is Mission 124, which is the Vance on outdoors. We tell folks to come to Port Columbus around 8:30 at night to get parked, situated, come into the ticketing level of Southwest Airlines. And then that ticketing level, once you hit that about 8:30, you'll know exactly where to go. We kind of take over that whole area. And then you just get in the line. We section it off to where the vets walk down the center. So either side of that center aisle, bring balloons, signs, red, white, and blue flags. Bring your celebration, bring your joy, because that's the celebration welcome home that they never received.
She couldn't have said it any better. Well, Beth, thank you for thank you for making the drive down here. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to the continued support. And I look forward to 124 and just seeing how much of an impact our company can make.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Take care.
All right, everyone, that is all we have for you today. We really hope you enjoyed our conversation with Beth. You know, Honor Flight is such a great organization, and we're very proud to support them. You still have time to get into the Honor Flight gun raffle drawing, which benefits Honor Flight Columbus as well as Honor Flight Tri-State. Just swing over to our website for more information and to grab your tickets. The drawing will be held on August 12th and will be broadcast live on our YouTube channel. There's no need to be present to win. As always, we appreciate you listening, and until next time, enjoy the pursuit.